Imagine it's a Friday afternoon. Your paycheck just hit your bank account. For about 5 minutes, life feels amazing. You grab a coffee on the way home. Maybe order takeout because you've had a long week. You pay the rent, cover your utilities, fill up your gas tank. Your credit card payment comes due. Your streaming subscriptions quietly renew. Then your car insurance gets deducted automatically. You open your banking app again. And somehow, nearly $2,000 disappeared in just a few days. Sound familiar? You're not alone. Millions of Americans work hard every single week, only to watch their money leave almost as fast as it arrives. They aren't lazy. They aren't reckless. They're simply stuck in a cycle where every dollar they earn depends on showing up to work. Work, no paycheck. And that's exactly the problem. Because what happens if you get laid off? What if you want to retire someday? What if you simply want the freedom to spend more time with your family instead of constantly trading hours for dollars? Here's something most people never realize.
Invest in my system.
The wealthiest people don't just work for money. They build systems that make money work for them. And one of the oldest, simplest, and surprisingly beginner-friendly ways to do that is through dividend investing. Imagine waking up one morning to a notification that says, "You've been paid." Not by your boss. Not because you clocked in. Not because you sold something. Just because you own part of a great company. That isn't some internet fantasy. It's how millions of investors quietly earn passive income every single year. The real question is, why aren't more people doing it? And more importantly, can someone starting with just a few $100s actually build meaningful dividend income? Today, we're answering that question from the ground up. Because by the end of this video, you'll understand not only how dividend investing works, but also how ordinary Americans use it to slowly build income, financial confidence, and long-term wealth. Before we dive in, I'm Della, and my goal is simple, to make investing feel less intimidating and a whole lot more practical. No confusing Wall Street jargon, no hype, just clear, real-world money strategies that everyday Americans can actually use to build a stronger financial future. So let's get started. The biggest lie about building wealth. Let's start with a belief many of us grow up hearing. If you want more money, just work harder. At first, that sounds perfectly reasonable. Work overtime. Take on a second job. Drive for Uber after work. Deliver food on weekends. Pick up extra shifts. And yes, working harder can absolutely increase your income. But there's a limit. No matter how motivated you are, there are only 24 hours in a day. You can only work so many hours before you run out of time, energy, or both. That's why relying solely on earned income creates what many financial experts call the paycheck trap. Every month starts the same. Work, get paid, spend, repeat, work, get paid, spend, repeat, year after year, decade after decade. You become incredibly skilled at earning money, but never build assets that earn money for you. That's the difference. Wealthy people often own businesses. They own real estate. They own investments. And many of them own dividend-paying stocks. Instead of depending on one paycheck, they have multiple income streams quietly working in the background. That doesn't mean they're sitting on a beach all day. It means they've spent years buying assets instead of only buying liabilities. A simple story. Let's compare two neighbors. Meet Jake. Jake earns $85,000 a year. He's responsible. Pays his bills on time, works 50 hours every week. Every raise he gets goes toward a nicer truck, a bigger TV, or more expensive vacations. By Friday afternoon, his paycheck already has a job. Now meet Sarah. Sarah earns almost exactly the same salary. But every month, before she spends money on anything else, she invests a portion of her paycheck into dividend-paying companies. She doesn't try to get rich overnight. She isn't chasing meme stocks. She isn't gambling on cryptocurrency trends. She's simply buying ownership in businesses she believes will still be thriving decades from now. Fast forward 15 years. Jake still depends entirely on his next paycheck. Sarah still works too. But something has changed. Every quarter, companies she owns begin sending cash directly into her investment account. Some months it's a few $100s. Eventually, it's thousands. Not because she worked extra hours, but because she owns productive assets. Same salary. Different decisions. Completely different financial future. So, what exactly is a dividend? Now let's answer the question everyone has when they're first starting. What is a dividend? Think about your favorite local pizza shop. Imagine you and 3 friends decide to buy the business together. The pizza shop has an incredible year. After paying employees, buying ingredients, paying rent, maintaining equipment, and saving money for future expansion, the business still has extra profit left over. You have 2 choices. Option 1. Keep every dollar inside the company. Option 2. Share some of those profits with the owners. Since you're one of the owners, you receive part of that money. Congratulations! That's basically what a dividend is. When you buy stock, you're buying a tiny ownership stake in a company. If that company chooses to distribute part of its profits to shareholders, it pays a dividend. In other words, the company is saying, "Thanks for investing in us. Here's your share of our profits." That's it. No magic. No complicated formulas. Just business owners sharing profits with shareholders. A real-life example. Let's make this even simpler. Imagine you own 10 shares of a company. The company announces it'll pay $1 per share every year. Since you own 10 shares, you receive $10. Own 100 shares, you receive $100. Own 1,000 shares, you receive $1,000. The more ownership you have, the larger your slice of the profit. Now here's where things become exciting. Many great companies don't pay dividends just once. They pay them every quarter. Some even pay monthly. And some companies have increased those payments every single year for decades. Imagine receiving a raise without asking your boss. That's exactly what dividend growth can feel like. Why would a company give away money? This is where beginners usually get confused. If companies are making money, why not just keep all of it? Great question. The answer depends on the company. Fast-growing companies often need every dollar they earn. Think about young technology companies. They're hiring employees, building new products, expanding internationally, buying competitors. Every extra dollar helps them grow faster. But mature companies are different. Imagine a giant company that's already operating around the world. It has millions of customers. Its products are everywhere. Its growth naturally slows because it's already enormous. Instead of piling up cash with nowhere productive to invest it, management may decide to reward shareholders with regular dividend payments. It's a way of saying, we're generating more cash than we currently need, so we're sharing part of our success with the people who own this business. That decision often reflects a company with a stable business model, consistent profits, and disciplined financial management. Dividends aren't free money. Now, here's an important reality check. A lot of social media makes dividends sound like free cash falling from the sky. That's not how it works. A dividend doesn't magically create wealth. When a company pays a dividend, the value of the company decreases by roughly the amount it distributes because that cash has left the business. What creates wealth over time isn't the payment alone. It's owning strong businesses that continue to grow profits, increase dividends, and become more valuable over many years. That's a huge distinction. Dividend investing isn't about collecting random payouts. It's about becoming a long-term owner of quality companies. The power of thinking like an owner. Here's a mindset shift that can completely change the way you invest. Most beginners look at a stock and ask, will the price go up next week? Experienced investors ask something different. Would I want to own this business for the next 20 years? That one question changes everything. You're no longer gambling on stock prices. You're evaluating real businesses. Businesses with employees, customers, products, cash flow, management teams, competitive advantages, and profits. When you own shares, you're not buying a lottery ticket. You're becoming a tiny business owner. That's exactly how many legendary long-term investors approach the market. Why dividend investing has become so popular. Over the last several years, many Americans have experienced something they hadn't seen in decades. Higher inflation, rising grocery bills, more expensive insurance, higher rent, higher utility costs, more expensive cars. Everything suddenly costs more. People began asking a different question. What if my investments could help pay some of these bills? That's one reason dividend investing has attracted so much attention. Instead of relying only on future stock price appreciation, investors appreciate the possibility of receiving regular cash payments along the way. For retirees, those payments can help support everyday expenses. For younger investors, they can be automatically reinvested to buy even more shares, creating a powerful cycle of long-term compounding. Different goals. Same investing strategy. But don't make this mistake. At this point, you might be thinking, so I should just buy whichever stock pays the biggest dividend? Not so fast. That's one of the most expensive mistakes beginners make. Some companies advertise dividend yields that look unbelievably attractive. 10%, 12%, even 15%. Sounds amazing. Until you discover the company is losing money. Its stock price is collapsing. And the dividend gets cut a few months later. Suddenly, that incredible income disappears. In investing, if something looks too good to be true, it usually deserves a closer look. And that's exactly what we'll learn next. Because not all dividend stocks are created equal. Some quietly build wealth for decades. Others destroy it. Knowing the difference could save you thousands of dollars. And that's where we're headed next. So if chasing the biggest dividend check isn't the answer, what is? The answer isn't finding the company that pays the most. It's finding the company that's most likely to keep paying and increasing that dividend for years, even decades. Because dividend investing isn't a race. It's a system. And once you understand how that system works from beginning to end, you'll realize why so many Americans quietly build wealth without constantly checking stock prices every 5 minutes. Let's walk through exactly how the entire process works. From the moment you decide to invest, to the day your investments start paying you. Step 1. You don't buy dividends, you buy ownership. One of the biggest mindset shifts beginners need to make is this. You're not shopping for income. You're shopping for businesses. Think about it this way. If someone offered you the chance to own 1% of a local coffee shop that had customers lined up every morning for the last 20 years, you'd probably ask questions like, how much money does it make? Are sales growing? Does it have debt? Is management responsible? Can competitors easily replace it? Notice what you wouldn't ask first. How much cash can I take out tomorrow? Yet that's exactly what many beginners do when investing. They search websites that rank dividend yields from highest to lowest. The first company paying 12% catches their attention, without understanding why it's paying 12%. Often, that enormous yield isn't a sign of strength, it's a warning sign. Imagine a company whose stock price falls from $100 to $40 because investors believe profits are collapsing. If the company hasn't cut its dividend yet, the yield suddenly looks huge. Nothing improved. The business actually became weaker. That's called a dividend trap. And thousands of investors fall into it every year. Instead, professional dividend investors flip the process around. They ask, would I proudly own this business if it never paid a dividend? If the answer is yes, then the dividend becomes an added bonus, not the entire reason for investing. Step 2. Opening the right investment account. Now let's imagine you've decided you're ready to become an investor. What's the very first practical step? You need a brokerage account. Think of a brokerage as your investing home. Just like a bank holds your cash, a brokerage holds your investments. Today, opening an account in the United States is easier than ever. In many cases, it takes less than 15 minutes. Most brokerages don't require large minimum deposits anymore. Some even allow you to buy fractional shares. That means you don't need hundreds or thousands of dollars to invest in a great company. If one share costs $500, you might be able to buy just $25 worth. That's one of the biggest changes in modern investing. Years ago, building a diversified portfolio required significant money. Today, technology has removed many of those barriers. Which account should you use? This is where many beginners accidentally leave money on the table. Not because they picked bad investments, but because they picked the wrong account. Generally speaking, Americans often invest using one of two approaches: a regular taxable brokerage account, or a retirement account like a Roth IRA. Here's the difference. A taxable brokerage account gives you flexibility. You can invest whenever you want, withdraw whenever you want, sell whenever you want. But dividends and capital gains may be subject to taxes, depending on your situation. A Roth IRA works differently. You contribute money you've already paid taxes on. But if you follow the IRS rules, qualified withdrawals in retirement, including investment growth, can generally be tax-free. Think about that for a moment. Imagine decades of dividend growth, potentially without paying federal tax on those qualified withdrawals in retirement. That's one reason financial planners often encourage long-term investors to take advantage of tax-advantaged retirement accounts when appropriate. Of course, everyone's tax situation is different, but understanding where you invest can be almost as important as what you invest in. Step 3. Finding great companies. Now comes the exciting part. Choosing businesses. Notice I didn't say choosing stocks, because stocks represent businesses. The ticker symbol is just a shortcut. Behind every ticker, there are employees, factories, customers, products, cash registers, patents, leadership teams, real businesses serving real people. When evaluating dividend companies, ask yourself one simple question. Will people probably still need this company's products 10 years from now? That's why many dividend investors naturally gravitate toward businesses with predictable demand. Think about everyday life. People still brush their teeth, still buy groceries, still use electricity, still drink beverages, still purchase medicine, still pay for internet service. These industries may not make exciting headlines every day, but boring businesses often generate wonderfully consistent profits. And consistency is exactly what dividend investors love. Cash flow is king. Here's something Wall Street professionals constantly watch. Cash flow. Not just profits. Cash flow. Imagine you own a landscaping business. Customers owe you $100,000. On paper, you look profitable. But if nobody has actually paid you yet, can you pay your employees? Can you buy equipment? Probably not. Cash flow measures the actual money moving through a business. Companies pay dividends using real cash, not accounting magic. That's why strong free cash flow often matters more than flashy earnings headlines. A company consistently producing healthy cash flow has a much better chance of sustaining and increasing its dividend over time. The dividend payout ratio. Here's another metric every dividend investor should know. The payout ratio. Imagine a company earns $10 billion this year. Instead of paying all $10 billion to shareholders, it distributes $5 billion. Its payout ratio would be roughly 50%. Why does that matter? Because it leaves room. Room for reinvestment. Room for unexpected downturns. Room to keep increasing dividends in the future. But imagine another company earning $10 billion and paying out $9.8 billion. Now almost every dollar is leaving the business. That might look generous today. But what happens during a recession? If profits fall, management may have no choice but to reduce the dividend. Healthy businesses generally balance rewarding shareholders while still investing in future growth. It's a balancing act, not a generosity contest. Dividend growth matters more than you think. Many beginners focus only on today's income. Experienced investors focus on tomorrow's income. Imagine Company A pays a 7% dividend today, but never increases it. Company B pays only 2.5%, yet raises that dividend by 10% every single year. Fast forward 20 years. Which investment might produce more income? Surprisingly, often the second one. That's because dividend growth compounds. Each increase builds on the last. And those raises can dramatically change your income over decades. This is why some investors become genuinely excited when a company announces another annual dividend increase. It's like getting a raise without interviewing for a new job. The 4 dates every dividend investor should know. Now let's clear up one topic that confuses almost every beginner. You buy a dividend stock. When exactly do you get paid? There are 4 important dates. First, the declaration date. That's when the company's board officially announces the dividend. Second, the ex-dividend date. This is probably the most important. To receive the upcoming dividend, you generally need to own the stock before the ex-dividend date. If you buy on or after that date, the seller, not you, typically receives the upcoming payment. Third, the record date. This is when the company checks its shareholder records. Finally, the payment date. That's when the money actually arrives in your brokerage account. Understanding these dates prevents a lot of beginner confusion. Don't try to game the system. Some people discover ex-dividend dates and think they've found an easy loophole. I'll buy the stock the day before, collect the dividend, then immediately sell it. Sounds clever. Unfortunately, the market already understands dividends. When a dividend is paid, the stock price typically adjusts by roughly the dividend amount at the market open on the ex-dividend date. There are many other factors affecting stock prices too, but simply buying the day before and selling the next day is not a reliable strategy for generating easy profits. Successful dividend investing comes from years of ownership, not overnight tricks. Qualified dividends versus ordinary dividends. Now let's talk taxes. Because taxes matter. Not in an exciting way, but in a keep more of your money way. In the United States, some dividends qualify for favorable tax treatment if certain IRS requirements are met. These are commonly called qualified dividends. Others are taxed as ordinary income. The exact tax treatment depends on several factors, including the type of investment and how long you've held it. That's another reason long-term investing often offers advantages beyond simply staying invested. Understanding basic tax rules can help you make smarter decisions instead of unpleasant surprises at tax time.